If you're building your first product brand right now, one of the biggest decisions of your life is what you will call your brand. But here's what most founders do not realize. If you get this wrong, it will cost you millions. And if you don't get this part right, you genuinely may lose everything. One of my best friends genuinely got took to court for a few £1,000,000 because they didn't have the legal side covered on what I'm about to share with you. So listen in. And the company that took him to court was a very well-known company called LVMH. So if you do not want a multi-million-pound lawsuit, or you want factual advice on how to name your brand correctly, grab a pen. And that's one of the many friends, by the way, that's got into some legal trouble. So please understand, when you're naming your brand, it's not just creative, it's genuinely legal strategy. And if you don't do this right, it will destroy everything that you've built later down the line. But also, I just want to give some factual, easy information on how to choose the best brand name, because there are over 300 million brands in the world today. That means finding a name that's unique, memorable, and actually available is harder than ever before. So in this video, I am going to simplify the entire process for you by breaking down the 7 types of brand names, show you exactly how to choose the right one for your brand, and give you a simple, easy framework that makes the whole thing so much easier. Because naming your brand shouldn't feel like you're guessing it. It should be direct strategy. My name is Lewis Maguire, and I've built, designed, sourced, and sold product brands across 40 countries now, and that's across apparel, jewelry, footwear, supplements. I have been at it for nearly a decade. I'm giving the information for free that I've learned the hard way over the years. And if you want more information on what we do, step by step, from idea of an initial product, or if you are wanting to take your existing brand and scale it globally, then please head over to brandmap.io and speak to one of our team. But without further ado, let's get into the facts on how to build a successful brand name. Now, to start off with, there are 7 types of brand names that you can fall into. Pretty much every brand name that you've ever heard of falls into these 7 categories. And once you understand these, naming becomes so much easier. So type number 1 is an eponymous name, which means a founder's name. These are names based on the founders. Think Ralph Lauren, Tom Ford, in the watch world, Patek Philippe. These work when the founder's vision and personality are at the core of the brand. But here's the catch. If you are not planning to be the face of the brand forever, or your name doesn't roll off the tongue easily, this may not be the best route. I've seen founders force this because they think it adds credibility, but they also have a little bit of an ego. But unless your story is central to the brand's identity, in my opinion, it will actually limit you down the line. And also, if you want to stay commercial, especially in the early days, stay away, because if your name is difficult to pronounce, or the option is you want to exit the business someday, which you should be thinking about, the end goal should always be global, you should think twice about choosing this name for your brand. That moves me on to type 2, which is a descriptive name. It tells you what it does. These tell you exactly what the brand does. Think American Apparel, the shoe company, watchfinder.com. The benefit here is instant clarity. People instantly know what you sell, but the downside, the names are so hard to own because they're usually generic. They are difficult to trademark, and they also don't really create an emotional connection, which is vital when you are growing a brand. It's growing that community. So if you are building a brand that you want to scale globally and stand out in a crowded marketplace, I would also personally avoid this route, because descriptive names, they usually work better with faceless brands or businesses, but they don't really build a movement. They don't create the type of brands that people want to tattoo on themselves or post on their Instagram or queue up overnight to buy over the stores or in the stores. And that takes me to type 3, acronyms, which is a shorthand version of a name. You see this a lot. Think of APC, DKNY. These are shorthand versions of the names, and they work when the full name is too long or it doesn't translate well in a new market. But here's what people don't usually realize about acronyms. They only work once you've built that recognition. Think of Kanye West. This is on his documentary. Kanye always said he wanted to be known as Ye, and he actually talks about it in the early days. He knew that he wanted to get it down from Kanye West to Ye and have him recognized as Ye, and it works, but you have to work it backwards. No one cares about a random few letters until they know what those letters stand for. That's the brand's representation. So if you are just starting out, I wouldn't necessarily lead with an acronym. Build the brand first, earn the recognition, and then shorten it if you need to. Think about it. DKNY, if it launched today, just as DKNY, and no one knew that it actually stood for Donna Karan New York, would anyone care? Absolutely not. And I don't really think anyone's bothered about Donna Karan anymore, but that's just off the top of my head. And type 4. Real words are dictionary names. These are names that are pulled straight from the dictionary. Represent, supreme. The advantage here is its instant recognition and instant meaning. People understand the word, so you are borrowing equity from language itself. But in a world with 300 million brands, finding the real word that's available, trademarkable, is nearly impossible. But if you find one, you will be competing with every brand that is using it in a different industry. So if you go this route, make sure the word has a strong connection with your own story or your own values. Otherwise, it's just really, really hard work. Supreme works because it means the best. And it's exactly what the brand positions itself as. Not just a word, it's a statement about that brand. Then type 5 is a composite name. It's two words that are combined. These are two words glued together. Think Gymshark, gym and shark. Think Hoodrich, hood rich. I actually really like this approach because it gives you true flexibility. You can combine words that reflect your product, your values and your vision, and you end up with something that feels familiar but extremely unique to you and your brand. And the key here is making sure the two words work together naturally. Gymshark works because it's memorable, visual, and it has energy. If it feels forced or it sounds like a tech startup, it's not really going to land if it's a product-based brand. Hoodrich does exactly the same thing. From the hood, and you want to be rich. Say it out loud. If it sounds too awkward, people will ask you to repeat it and it just won't work. Makes it too tricky. You want to be commercial from the start. And then type 6. Invented names, which is a made-up word. These are names that don't actually exist in any language. You are creating something from scratch, adding letters or blending sounds. I actually read an article the other day about Häagen-Dazs being completely made up. I didn't even know this. Häagen-Dazs is not a real name, a real word in any language. The founders created it to sound Danish and sound premium, even though the company was started in New York. That is the power of marketing. That is the power of an invented name. You control the narrative of your brand with that information. Now, the benefit of this is total uniqueness. You completely own it. But the risk is that you might sound a bit too abstract. It might not be commercial enough. I have seen founders create names that look really cool on paper, but they are impossible to pronounce. Or remember, if a customer reads it and it takes too long to translate, the customer switches off, turns away, which is bad news for you. But the great news is, if you want to trademark these names, they are so easy. If you go down this route, test it out loud, say it over and over again, ask people to spell it for you, because if they can say it or spell it, they're not going to stick to it and it won't convert on the back end. And type 7 is an associate name. This is a name that evokes a feeling. These names reflect an idea, a feeling, an image that connects back to the brand. Patagonia evokes adventure. Rolex sounds premium. This is my favorite type of name because it does more than the label of your brand. It positions it. It creates a feeling before someone sees your product, and it's powerful. If you can find a name that connects on an emotional level throughout this experience, that's where your brand will excel. You're already ahead of so many founders that are trying to start up, and that's where the magic happens. And the biggest mistake I see most founders making is this. So those are the 7 types, but here's what most people get completely wrong. They think their name has to describe what they do. And honestly, after being in this industry for nearly 10 years, that's a huge mistake. The best brands in the industry, they don't describe, they stand for something bigger. They represent an idea, a feeling, a vision. Going back to Supreme, it doesn't tell you that it's a streetwear brand, it tells you it's the best. Patagonia doesn't tell you it's outdoor gear, but it tells you it's exploration and it's nature. Rolex doesn't tell you it makes watches, but it tells you it's about precision, status, legacy. It connotes all of the above. So when you are thinking of your brand name, ask yourself, what's the big picture? What do I want people to feel when I hear this name? And that is truly where the real work begins, because once you've got those things covered, you need to check availability. So once you've decided the type of name that you are going to proceed with and the idea behind it, the next step is checking availability. And this is where it gets frustrating, because you might create 100 names before you actually find one that's available. It is extremely stressful, believe me. However, a simple framework of what you need to check: the domain, see if that's available. Trademarks in your category, see if those are available. What that name means in other languages or other markets, see if it means something offensive, which I've actually done in the past, which is not good when you're expanding. But I have seen brands launch with names that sound great in English, but they sound completely inappropriate in Spanish or Mandarin. So do your research. It's not glamorous, but this part is essential. ChatGPT will help you out a lot with this. You can do it in 2 seconds, but the one thing here, don't stress about owning the .com domain. If it's taken, I know this usually sounds counterintuitive with setting up a brand, but the reality is most people in this day and age find their brands through Instagram, TikTok, Google search. And long gone are the days where .com is the premium place. You can have .co, .io, or even just a social handle. You are fine, but just focus on building the brand first. The domain matters less on the back end. Just focus on building something that people actually care about, and the rest will sort itself out. I used to spend hours and days, and so have many of my friends, trying to get the .com domain. It's a waste of time. But completing this, naming your brand is one of the most important decisions you will ever make, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Just start by choosing the type of name that fits your vision, then focus on the idea you want your brand or name to represent, and finally, do the work to make sure that it's available and, more importantly, ownable. If you follow that process I've just explained, you will end up with a name that's not just memorable, but meaningful. And again, that's when things start to snowball, and that's when you create real momentum that people get behind, because a great name isn't just a label. It's the first piece of your brand's story. And if you get that right, everything becomes so much easier. Now, I know this may feel a little bit overwhelming. You might go through 50 or 100 names before you find the right one. But here's what I want you to remember. Every single brand that you admire was in the exact same position you was right now. Ralph Lauren, the OG, didn't just wake up with the perfect name. Supreme tested dozens of options. Patagonia could have been called something completely different. But the difference between the brands that made it and the brands that didn't, and it wasn't even luck, it was the commitment to the game. It was refusing to settle for something that wasn't good enough. And they pushed back until they found something that was truly representable of what they were building. So if you are in the thick of this right now, if you are trying to find a brand name, if you feel like every name is taken, just keep going. Just use ChatGPT, because the perfect name for your brand is out there. And when you find it, you'll know everything will feel right. It'll represent your brand and everything that you're trying to build. And also you'll be able to get the trademark on it. And that is the foundation that everything is built on, because your brand deserves a name that does it justice. So take the time, do the work, and trust the effort that you put in now will pay off in years to come. And if this has helped you, please save it as a reminder for the future. And I truly wish you the best of luck, and I will see you on the other side.